Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Library in Your Living Room, our series of virtual programs. We're very excited to welcome Honey Bronson back to the library this year to help us kick off the new year with a talk on how to optimize your health through sustainable lifestyle changes and how to make healthy New Year's resolutions that you can keep. Honey is a longtime resident of Highland Park and is a registered nurse. She spent most of her nursing career working at Highland Park Hospital in home health care, oncology, and clinical research. In 2016, Honey became a functional medicine certified health coach, receiving her certification through the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy associated with the Institute of Functional Medicine at the Cleveland Clinic. And recently, she received additional certification and became a national board certified health and wellness coach. Congratulations, Honey. Honey has a private practice coaching individuals to help them make healthy lifestyle changes and is passionate about healthy living. As part of her presentation tonight, she will address some of your New Year's resolutions or ones that you're thinking about. If you've made New Year's resolutions or are thinking about one you'd like to make, you can enter it in the chat box. The icon to access the chat box is at the bottom of your screen. So you can use that and enter your New Year's resolution. We'll conclude the program tonight with questions and answers, questions that you might want to ask of Honey, and you can also use the chat box to type in your questions. Before I turn it over to Honey, please note that as an attendee tonight, your cameras and microphones are not enabled. Again, we encourage you to enter your New Year's resolution in the chat box. And now I'm going to turn it over to Honey. Thank you, Honey.
Thanks, Beth, for that sweet introduction. And thank you so much for inviting me back to the library. I'm going to share my screen now and get started with the presentation. Okay, can everyone see the screen or put in the chat if you're having a problem? And everyone good? Beth, you wanna tell me if we're good on sharing the screen?
Everything looks great, Honey. So yep, we can see your screen and go right ahead.
Okay, so we're good to go. So as Beth said, we're going to be talking about a new year and a new you. And obviously we were, I think, all happy to say goodbye to 2020 and looking forward to making some changes. I think with COVID, lots of times we were kind of in survival mode and let some things go. So we're going to reboot and see what we can talk about tonight. So we're going to go over general guidelines for healthy living. We're going to talk about food as medicine, activity, sleep, stress management, and toxins in your environment. And as Beth mentioned, I'd really like to address New Year's resolutions. So if you are willing to put your New Year's resolution or anyone that you have been thinking about in the chat box, then towards the end, we can kind of go through them. And I'd like to give you all a new way of thinking about making New Year's resolutions. So I want to start out by just having you think a little bit about what healthy means to you. I have here in this diagram that with health in the middle, we think about our sleep, nutrition, stress, activity, the connection between our mind and body, toxins in the environment. For some people, they may eat healthy and feel, you know, I eat healthy, I'm healthy. For other people, they're at the gym every day. That's what health means to them. And what I'd like to suggest and what I'm going to try and demonstrate to you tonight is that healthy really encompasses all of these things, and they really all work together. So part of this is explaining to you what functional medicine is if you're not familiar with it. It's a way of looking at healthcare that looks at the root cause of our illness or our symptoms instead of just treating the disease. So many times we go to the doctor and we go with complaints of GI upset or anxiety, insomnia, depression, maybe trouble sleeping, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, and the doctor gives it a name and gives us a pill. And we call it a pill for every ill. And functional medicine says, maybe it's something in our lifestyle. Maybe if we take a look at one of the aspects of what I just showed you, then we can maybe lessen or alleviate some of these symptoms. And so what that brings me to is being a functional medicine health coach. What health coaches do is help you make those changes, because it's really not so easy to get everything in line, to get your sleep and activity and all the things I mentioned. And what so health coaching does is it gets you from where you are to where you want to be. And sometimes you need a guide by your side, a coach. And I put this diagram in here, and I'm going to have or image, and I'm going to have several throughout the night of my family and little stories. And this is me and my daughter in New Zealand. And I certainly needed some coaching to get across this swing bridge, someone to encourage me and to help me get there. I'm going to start with food. One of the primary principles of functional medicine is that food is medicine. And this obviously is not a new concept. As you can see, Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And we really have to understand that everything that we put in our body when we are ingesting food, that it is molecules that is interacting with the cells in our body and basically is either helping us and taking us a step toward health, or is hurting us and creating inflammation and symptoms that are bringing on disease. So what do we do about that? And there's so much, obviously, information and different diets that you read about and hear about. We're bombarded. And what I'd like to do in this short time tonight, and the just little part that I'm going to spend on food, is to give you 3 principles that apply to everyone. Diet is individual, and there's not one diet for everyone, but there are some principles that really do apply to everyone. And one of them, Michael Pollan wrote in Defense of Food, eat food grown on a plant, not made in a plant. And what that means is that we want to focus on whole food versus processed food. So whole food is food that you look at and you know just what it is. It's a pepper, a zucchini, it's a tomato, a piece of fish. Where processed food usually comes in a bag or a box, and we don't know what it is until we look at the ingredients. And then many times we're looking at the ingredients and it's a lot of things we can't pronounce. And so we don't know what it is. I just want to make sure that everything's okay. And I don't know if Beth is texting me. So I think.
Oh, honey, I think maybe there's some background noise. So.
Okay. If that continues, let me know and I will take off my headphones. Okay?
Sounds good right now. Thanks.
It sounds good. Okay, thanks for letting me know. So part of this is we all kind of grew up thinking about calories, and some people are still kind of stuck on calories, but we want to remember that not all calories are the same. As illustrated here, these M&Ms that might look delicious are probably about maybe 250 calories a package, as is maybe this lettuce with salmon and tomatoes and fresh vegetables. And these are very different signals that you are sending to your body, whether when you're eating the M&Ms or whether you're eating whole foods like the salad. The second principle, and I really like to be positive and tell you more things that tonight that you should do, not so much what you shouldn't do, but I can't talk about diet and food without talking about sugar. And unfortunately, sugar is the devil. Sugar is implicated in diabetes and heart disease, inflammation, dementia, cancer, obesity, and the list goes on and on. So we really want to pay attention to sugar. And this says eliminate added sugar, and we don't necessarily need to eliminate it, but we really want to take in as little added sugar as possible. And what I mean by added sugar is not the sugar that comes naturally in fruit and our dairy products, but sugar that is added in additionally to processed foods. Again, it's not easy to do. Even if we want to pay attention and I'm going to read labels and know what I'm eating, because there are at least 54 other names for sugar and they're listed here on the right. And I know this slide might be a little bit difficult to see all them, but you don't need to memorize them. The point is that you're not going to turn a label over and see real clearly in the ingredients, one sugar, because it may be listed in many different ways. However, if you do look at the labels now, the FDA has passed a law that needs to identify sugar, total sugar, and added sugar. This is an old label that just put in total sugar. So the idea here, though, in showing you this, is that even things that we think are healthy, like vitamin water or our breakfast bars, if we need to really take a look at the labels and see, because many of those items, especially if they have health claims on the front, have added sugar and in places that we would least expect. And then the third principle that I just want to talk to you about in terms of nutrition is we want to increase phytonutrients. And phytonutrients is what gives plants and vegetables their color. They're the chemicals that are found in plants to keep the plants healthy. They protect the plants from insects and from UV light, and they are healthy for us. They're anti-inflammatory and they're antiviral. They have antioxidants and cancer-fighting chemicals. So we want to have like 8 to 9 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. And there we're getting our whole food, we're getting phytonutrients, and none have added sugar. I just threw in this slide because I did a presentation with COVID and how we can stay healthy during COVID. And I thought it was still apropos tonight that we'll fight COVID with color. The PDF sheet that you see on your screen that says phytonutrient spectrum foods is difficult to read for you, but I will explain that it lists many fruits and vegetables by their color: red, orange, yellow, green, and so forth. And then it lists the phytonutrients and their benefits for you. It's a really nice guide to have, and I'm happy to share it with you. So at the end, I will share with you my contact information and my email. And if you email me, I'm happy to send you this PDF. Here on the right lists focusing on flavonoids with antiviral properties that are in certain vegetables and fruits. But what I like to tell people is you don't need to memorize, what's in red and what's in yellow and what's antiviral, because what you want to concentrate on is a variety. Really, we need them all. So you want to have lots of fruits and vegetables and a variety of them. So now I'm going to move on and talk to you a little bit about lifestyle interventions. We're going to start with sleep. And we really can't underestimate the importance of sleep. I talk to so many people who don't sleep well, and they just take it for granted. When I ask them about sleep, they might say, oh, no, I have a really difficult time sleeping, but I have for years. Like, tossing it off like that's not their problem, that's not what they're here to talk to me about. And sleep, every system in our body needs sleep. It is the time for us to rest and digest for our GI system, our brain for our memory, for our cognition, for our muscles and our joints needs rest. We really recommend 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night. Interruption or a short interruption, maybe to go to the bathroom and be able to get back to sleep. And most Americans really are sleep deprived. And again, just like diet, it's very individual what helps people sleep. Some people have difficulty going to sleep to begin with. Some people have difficulty staying asleep. There are many aspects of something that we refer to as sleep hygiene. And sleep hygiene involves creating a routine, making your bedroom conducive to sleep and not your office. So we recommend not having screen time for at least 2 hours before bed. And that's the television and your telephone and your iPad, and everything that we look at all day long. If you need to look at the screen, I recommend blue light filters either on the screen or blue light filter glasses. Also want to take a look at your caffeine intake. For some people, just even having 1 glass of caffeine a day can be interruptive to their sleep patterns, alcohol as well. Uh, Food before bedtime can be an interrupter of sleep. Your blood sugar is high, then when your blood sugar drops, may cause you to wake up. So we recommend that you don't eat for at least 2 to 3 hours before going to bed. And really the list goes on and on. And when I work with people, we really kind of dive deep into routines and try different things. Meditation can be very helpful, both in falling asleep and staying asleep. And then there are lots of supplements like melatonin, magnesium, and so forth. So we should all be sleeping like this puppy. And so we're going to eat healthy, we're going to get good sleep, and of course, we need to exercise. The recommendation is 30 minutes of moderate exercise 5 times a week, with 2 times a week to include strength or resistance. As we get older, we need to add balance, and I like to add in there flexibility as well. It does not mean for people who are sedentary, and this is something new, that you need to start out with 30 minutes at a time. You can break that up and do, 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes later in the afternoon and 10 minutes in the evening, and build up so that you can do at least 30 minutes the 5 days a week. So let's just see. I think we're doing okay. Another thing that I like to talk about when I talk to people about exercise is to make sure to do something that you like. Everyone's going to start off the new year. Right now, many of the gyms are closed, and we have new challenges, obviously, with COVID. And we have to maybe find Zoom programs that we like or different walks that we like and be creative. But the bottom line is that if you don't have an activity you like, it makes it a lot more difficult, honestly, to stick with it. And then there's some people that just don't like exercise. They've tried running and swimming and biking and dance classes and weight training. And the next step is, so if you can't find the exercise you like, can you find someone to do it with? So maybe you don't really like getting on the bike, but you really enjoy being with this friend that will do it with you, even if you have to do it right now together virtually. And another thing that I want to mention is getting outside. If you can get outside, it's something that will really help with sleep, and it's going to help with mood. So it's going to cross over into lots of my slides today. So I just kind of threw this in to show I'm lucky enough to be able to have friends that enjoy exercising outside, even in the winter, playing paddle tennis or just taking a walk. We on a snowy day recently, and really enjoying the beauty. Even though we live in Chicago and it's cold, it can be nice and a way to get in your exercise. And we'll move on to dealing with stress. We obviously have had a very stressful year, and stresses that we never really anticipated. And there are so many different ways that we can deal with the stress. The bottom line is that it's part of our plan. Just like we think about our diet and we think about what activity we're going to do, everyone needs to kind of take a step back and think about how am I going to deal with the stress. Some people it's prayer or gratitude journals, yoga, being outdoors. Different things work for different people. What I'd like to suggest to you, because I'm trying to give you a little take home in each category that we talk about, the number one and easiest thing that you can do is to take a deep breath. Taking deep breaths stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system. What the parasympathetic nervous system does, lowers your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, and it is your calming nervous system. So I talk to people about something that I call Take 5. It's really very simple, and we can practice a couple now. I ask you to just get comfortable, turn off your TVs and your phones, put everything aside, sit down. Usually ask people to maybe flutter their eyes closed, and if you want, you can do this now. I'm just going to ask you to take a deep breath in through your nose to the count of 5 and let it out to the count of 5. So you take a deep breath in, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do it one more time. Deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so it's really that simple. And I say take 5 because it would be great if you can do that 5 times a day. Maybe when you get up in the morning, when you go to sleep at night, maybe when you sit down to eat, to just take that break and remind yourself to take those deep breaths. I always like to do that before I move into the next topic, because this is the one that kind of stresses me out, and it's toxins in your environment. And again, this is something that many people really don't think about. I would probably guess that if you put, I asked Beth, I can't see the chats, but probably it's not maybe your New Year's resolution to limit toxins in your environment. But it's so important, and it really affects all of our systems when we're ingesting or exposed to toxins. And unfortunately, they're in our food supply, they're in our water, air, our storage containers. Then when we take a shower, they're in our shampoo and hair color, nail color. When we cook, in our cookware, our cleaning supplies, the sofas that we're sitting on, they're fire retardants. When we go outside and we're being healthy and having a picnic, they're weed killers and Roundup that are interrupters of our hormones. So this could be a whole topic on its own, obviously. And I would suggest that we maybe think about it and try and include in our health plan a way that we're going to take maybe 1 or 2 steps this year to limit the toxins in our environment. And what I'd like to introduce you to is an organization called the Environmental Working Group, and their website is www.ewg.org. It's in red at the bottom of the slide. And it's a not-for-profit organization that does quite a bit of work on all the areas that I just mentioned. And you can Google to see, for instance, what sunscreens are safe or what cleaning products are safe. And what they are maybe most known for is that they publish every year a list of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And here is the Dirty Dozen from last year. And these are the top 12 foods that are the most pesticide laden. So one thing that you might think about doing if you don't already buy organic food, or you kind of don't know, like you're not going to buy all organic, what do you think would be the most important to buy organic? It's a nice list to have. And so maybe you might tell yourself, from now on, when I buy berries and sweet bell peppers, I'm going to make sure to buy organic. And when you go to the website, you'll also see the Clean 15, which is kind of nice. So you know that maybe cauliflower and avocados, you don't need to spend the extra money on, because those actually are on the Clean 15 list. So I ran through those kind of quickly, and it might seem simple. You eat whole foods, not processed. You want lots of color, phytonutrients. You're going to limit sugar and sugar substitutes, get regular exercise, healthy sleep, and decrease your toxic load. But as we all know, it's not easy. Many times we set out to do any one of those things, and it's really hard to stick to. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I did a little bit of research, and the top 5 New Year's resolutions are to get in shape, lose weight, eat healthier in general, enjoy life to the fullest, and to spend less and save more. I'm going to leave the spend less, save more to the business experts, but we're going to address the New Year's resolutions that have to do with health. And 38% to 50% of New Year's resolutions that people make are related to wellness. And you may or may not be surprised that 80 to 92% fail. I just want to see how we're doing on time. So how do we make New Year's resolutions, or resolutions at all, that are more achievable? Many times people say, I know what I need to do, I just can't seem to do it. And it is true. We have learned that information is just the very first step. It's good to get the information. Probably most of what I said tonight you've heard before. Sometimes you hear it over and over and over again, and it's that one time that clicks. But as we know from the say no to drugs and the warnings on cigarette packages, just having the information doesn't always do it. So I'd like to kind of run you through a process, and in your mind, even if you didn't put it in the chat, if you could maybe just think of something that you would like to do, because it really starts with desire. First of all, you need to want it, right? You want to lose weight. I heard someone the other day say they want to lose the COVID-19. People are home, maybe by the refrigerator, and having that temptation of gained weight. You want to maybe have more energy, or eat healthier, or meditate. So we want, obviously, to start with the desire. The desire is not enough. It's like saying, I want to win the lottery. We need to take the next step. And what I'd like to suggest is the next step is that you need to believe. Why do you want to be healthier? And I feel like you need to believe that, for instance, food is medicine, that it really matters to your health if you work on getting a full night's sleep, if you decrease your stress, that you really can reverse some diseases, and alleviate symptoms. And the reason that I put this little guy in the mask here is because I was thinking of COVID, and I was thinking that it's similar to wearing a mask. Wearing a mask is miserable. We can all agree. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes what it looks like or what it feels like. But if you believe that it's going to keep you healthier and keep your family healthier, you have that belief, it helps with the motivation to do it. And you also need to believe in yourself. You need to think about your confidence level in when you're setting goals and making resolutions. You make them, but no, you know what? I never did this before. I'm never going to be able to do it, but you have the desire, and you'll make the resolution. And so one of the things I do in working with clients is working with them in believing in themselves, looking back maybe at other things that they have done in their life, that they've been successful, that they can draw upon those strengths to believe in yourself, that you can make changes. You need to acknowledge, of course, that there's going to be obstacles and roadblocks. and almost sit down with a pencil and paper and say, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I know that it's going to be so hard because whatever. It might be the temptations that surround you. I've had so many people when people were going into offices that would say, I do so well with nutrition, but I can't stand in my office because someone's bringing in a treat every day, or I walk by this desk where there's M&Ms, or whatever the temptation is that's facing you. Sometimes your family really isn't on board with the changes that you want to make. There might be money concerns, or not everyone can go and buy all organic food, or or pay the money to join a gym or get a personal trainer. There's time constraints. We're busy and everything else comes first. And many times we put ourselves and we put our health kind of at the bottom of the list. So I don't need to run through all of them, but I'm sure in your head you can think of what obstacles and roadblocks there may be. And on the other side, there's strengths and support that you may have. When I talked about family that may object, on the other hand, you might have family and friends that are very supportive of you. We look at your character strengths, your creativity, or your spirituality, or humor, your determination. What is it that you have done before that's successful, and how have you gotten there? And of course, we need the knowledge, which is, there to be had, but you need to obviously know how to access it and take the time to work through that. And a little story about this picture is my daughter is an occupational therapist, and she's also a yoga instructor. And I don't think she'll mind me sharing with you that she really had a hard time in the beginning of COVID, being a healthcare worker, being exposed, living alone and being isolated. And she was able to start a yoga community on the weekends in Lincoln Park, did that. And I just think it's a great example of using strengths and talents that we all have to take the step forward, to deal with adversity, and to have a healthier life. And we're not done. So we have the desire and we have the belief. We've thought about our obstacles. We've thought about our strengths. And now is the time that we can set goals. And the goals are a little bit different than these big New Year's resolutions, because what I'd like to suggest is that there's small goals that you can accomplish in the next day or the next week, not these goals that you're going to take 12 months to. That might be your long-term goal, like you'd like to run a marathon this year, might be a New Year's resolution that someone might have. But what are you going to do this week? So I'm going to sign up for a running club by Friday is what we call a SMART goal, because it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, realistic, and there's a time attached. This SMART goal concept is something that we use in healthcare as well as business. This is a lot more doable to get you to that New Year's resolution than the grandiose general resolutions that we see. And once we set those goals, then we can begin to say, how are we going to plan and strategize to get there? And this list can go on and on. And that all needs to be part of your plan. So similar to a marketing plan or a business plan, a health plan really needs to have all of these steps. And maybe you need to bring in your strategies support groups or accountability partners. Maybe you need to attend classes. Maybe it's time to see the doctor or the therapist to help you with, or the health coach. Whatever it is, my suggestion, and I think you're kind of getting the point, that it's baby steps. And this is one of my 3 grandsons that I had in the past year, my children had. So I, of course, wanted to get at least one of them into the presentation. So as we all know, because all of us have struggled, I struggle with the the sugar addiction, and as so many people do, and it's not a one-way street. It's not that you go through all these steps and that every day is going in the right direction. There are times when there are setbacks, U-turns, windy roads, and that's absolutely to be expected. And what you want to do in those times is to not look at them as failures, but learning experiences, and figure out what happened, what were the obstacles, and how you're going to get around that and continue on the journey. So I thought this was really nice to in the presentation to include and pretty much end with that it doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. And I know that the information I presented kind of quickly was a lot of information, and I'm happy to take questions about any part of it. You're welcome to email me. So here is my email. In the beginning, I shared my website, which is www.honeybronsonhealthcoach.com. So you can take a look. You can contact me through my website and see other programs on my website as well. I mentioned the sugar addiction that I struggle with because I am going to be doing a 3-part workshop to help people learn more about sugar and sugar substitutes and how our body works, and work together in a workshop to figure out by taking baby steps how we can overcome our sugar cravings. So let me see. I think that I am coming to the end here. I forgot that I had this slide that has my website and so forth. So if I'm happy to take questions or see what New Year's resolutions you had and go through the steps to make them a little bit more achievable.
Honey, thank you so much for sharing great information, as you always do. We really appreciate that. There were a couple New Year's resolutions, if you want to start with that. So one person put down as their New Year's resolution, glad you asked, daily swimming.
Okay, so I didn't realize when I set this up that we couldn't be interactive, so I couldn't ask questions. So I kind of just have to make some assumptions. And it's a great example because it's something that we can all visualize, and it's specific. You know what you want to do. You want to go swimming every day. What I don't know is if you're a swimmer to begin with, if you are swimming now, 3 times a week or twice a week, you can put in the chat if you give me a little bit of information, but I'm just gonna kind of go with assuming that you do swim. So we won't start it at swim lessons or whatever. And so what I think is that you need to look at with swimming every day is, what are your obstacles? Why would you not swim every day? Do you have a place to swim? Is it someplace that's open now? Are there time constraints to that? Because what I'm thinking about is this realistic for you? And do you want to swim every day? To make it as specific as possible. Do you want to swim 30 minutes a day, or you want to swim 10 minutes a day, an hour a day? So put down, you can kind of even write it down exactly as specific as you can. Okay, so you're able to do it for an hour. I saw daily, and that's as much as I can see. Do you see more?
Yeah, it says experience swim, water aerobics, vary it with yoga and maybe Pilates. So an experienced swimmer does it for an hour daily, and varies between swim and water aerobics, and then varies that with yoga and Pilates.
And so maybe because this is your resolution, maybe it's something that you've wanted to build up to, that you're not swimming every day now and you want to swim every day. So where I started is just where I'm going back to, and that would be to list the your roadblocks or your obstacles and to figure out how you might be able to get around it. So the days that you're not swimming, to think to yourself, why didn't I swim today? And I really wanted to swim today. What was it that I didn't get there? For some people, it really amounts to planning. And this, especially with people working with food issues, thinking about, and I'm kind of, it works for really anything, thinking about the night before what your day is going to be like and scheduling it into your day the same way you would schedule a business meeting or a doctor appointment. It's where you have to be at that time. It's not negotiable. You're not going to have a 1 o'clock doctor's appointment and kind of just, I don't know if I really feel like going, or this, and take this call or whatever. When you have to be there, you have to be there. So maybe making it more specific in your schedule. And if you are starting that I don't know how many days a week that you're missing, but let's say, right now you're swimming 4 days a week and you want to swim 7 days a week, maybe by bumping it up to 5 days a week. So you don't have to swim every single day right off the bat to get to your New Year's resolution of swimming every day. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. We had another resolution that says, get organized using a bullet journal, exercise more, eat healthier. So I know that you touched on the exercise and eat healthier. So maybe you can help this person figure out how to do that.
What kind of journal? I'm sorry.
A bullet journal. It's a form of journaling. Yeah.
Right. Of course. So actually, all three of them. I'm hoping that whoever, and it was, I really love these New Year's resolutions because it's exactly the example. And my objective in this presentation was to show that New Year's resolutions, we all do it. They're just too general and they're just too broad. And because of that, we're not as successful. So even your other two, like eat healthier and exercise more, hopefully we can go through the exercise like I went through with you, of making that more specific and breaking it down to what you want to do tomorrow and what you want to do this week and next week would be so helpful. And it really, the exact same structure works for the journaling as well. I know for me, I have a lot easier time doing the things that take a lot of energy and activity. There's different people with different energies, and the things like journaling, which is also something that I like to try and do, and being mindful and taking those deep breaths are a challenge for me as well. And again, it might be helpful for you to decide what time of day that you're going to do your journaling, and maybe even set aside certain days of the week. So maybe by saying you're going to journal every day without having a plan, it's really hard to stick to. And then what happens is you haven't journaled in so long, you've got like so much, and then it's so overwhelming. So maybe it's a little bit hard to start with the everyday part. So I would dial that back to whether it's once a week and you journal on Sundays, or 3 times a week. I'm going to do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make it even more specific of the time of day. Maybe associate it with something that's really nice. So you make yourself a cup of tea, like it's really your time to be with yourself in a quiet place, and write that out as your plan and take baby steps. And I think it will be a lot more successful in getting there. I love these, by the way. They're all great examples.
Thanks, honey. There's another one, another resolution, how to practice portion control, right? Or that's a question, I guess.
Okay, that's also a great question. So portion control is is really a great way to be healthier, especially if you are trying for portion control for weight loss. So as long as you have good healthy food, one of the best ways to practice portion control is to get your plate and put on your plate everything that you're going to eat at that meal. And so if you serve your family style and you put out, the plate of salad and vegetables and protein or whatever, and you can kind of just keep going back for more, it's really difficult to keep track of how much you're eating. So portion control for yourself, I don't know if you cook for anybody else, but serving everyone their platter is one way. And then if you are going to go back for more, you have to stand up and you have to go get it. Again, setting a plan that this is what you're going to eat. And if I am feeling like I want more, deciding what you're going to take more of. And hopefully that's the fruits and vegetables and phytonutrients that you can just have as much as you'd like.
Thank you. One of the parts of someone's resolution, and you probably addressed it a little bit by saying break it down, but it was eat healthier.
So I think that just eating healthier is a good example of a resolution because they're very general and it's without a plan. And like I said, healthy is different for everybody, and some people have specific issues and need a specific diet. But in general, the three things that I talked about were limiting sugar, eating whole foods, and increasing phytonutrients. So again, I would go through those steps because you've got the desire, you want to eat healthier, and it really does take some belief. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, they want to eat healthier, but do they really believe that it's going to help them? And if they don't believe that it will increase their longevity and give them more energy and being more vibrant and less symptoms, it makes it difficult to stick with it because there are so many temptations. So I would go through the desire, the belief, what the obstacles are. And in that general sense of eating healthier, it takes a lot of planning. And one thing I can mention with the portion control and with eating healthier, I mentioned it briefly with stress management is mindfulness, and there's something called mindful eating, and that is another strategy to incorporate into your overall health. I hope that's, without the dialogue, I don't know. I can't see the people. I don't know if it's helping, but hopefully.
Thank you. And I have a question. What would be like a good place to start if you wanted to say, I'm going to try to reduce some of the toxins in my daily life? What would you start with? Like the first thing you might start with?
Okay. Is it okay if I give you two?
Better.
Okay. So one thing that I would start with, because it's really easy and it's everywhere, is reducing plastics. So plastic food containers, plastic water bottles. What I do with a lot of people right off the bat who I see, I'm Zooming with them and they're drinking, like I'm drinking my water from the disposable plastic water bottle. As you know, BPA is in all plastics. The ones that say BPA free have other plastics. They're hormone disruptors. So if you have any thyroid issues or our insulin resistance that is so high and metabolic syndrome that we're seeing can all be related to we're exposed to so much BPA. It's even on receipts. So if we can limit that, not heating anything up. A lot of people are bringing in from restaurants, it's plastic containers, putting them in the microwave, really would make an effort to decrease plastics. I don't know, is that something you already do? And yes?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
glass water bottle.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good place to start, and to start to switch over to organic foods. So the Dirty Dozen is a good place to start, as well as eggs and your protein, your chicken, grass-fed organic beef, or other areas that I would start to move into to clean up your diet.
Thanks. Those are great tips and a good place to start. So thank you. I'm not sure that we have any. I think I've gotten through all the resolutions and the questions. If anyone has another question that they want to throw in the chat box, that's great. Otherwise, Honey, we did share your email in the chat box, honeybeehealthcoach@gmail.com. And you also mentioned your website earlier. And then I think you said that people could email you if they wanted a copy of that chart that you showed with the, okay. And then one more question just came in. What about clean makeup?
So obviously it's all good. The cleaner we can be, the better. You asked for a place to start, and I kind of think of that as a little bit down the road. But if you're eating healthy, and the more we do, the better. And again, ewg.org would be the place to go. They list, makeup and moisturizers, and rank all different products. So if there's one that you've seen that you wanted to get, you can type it in, and it will tell you, it rates them, whether they're A, B, C, or D, and tells you why. So it's really a great website. Did I mention that they will ask for donations? It's not for profit. They will ask for donations, but you don't have to make a donation. But I have a question for the people who are here, if anyone would like to share. I am working on this workshop because February is coming up and Valentine's Day, and there's lots of candy, and I love chocolate. So I'm working on this group workshop to kiss sugar cravings goodbye. And I'm wondering if anyone who's listening has any suggestions of techniques or strategies that they use to help with sugar cravings. If anyone wants to put that in.
So if anyone has a strategy that they've been successful with, or they're trying to enter it in the chat box about cutting back on how they curb their sugar craving. And then let's see, someone said sugar, not perfect at it, but I am trying to get it out of my house.
Right. And that's really great, a great idea, because if it's there, it's tempting. And sometimes I talk to people who say, I cannot buy it, but my kids want it, or my husband wants it. And I've suggested to some people, this is your shelf. You want it, and you can't, if you want it, then this shelf in the pantry is yours, and you kind of have to tell yourself you're not going to go there. So that removing the temptation is something that is really helpful. Oh, thank you.
It might be hard in February as you said, with
I know,
Valentine's
and that's
Day,
when I'm doing the workshop. So
right in the middle of the month. So
right.
But thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me. And again, if there's any questions that come in, you're welcome to send them to me. And I hope everyone has a nice evening. Thanks so much.
Honey, thank you for sharing all your great information, and we appreciate you speaking for the library. Thank you. Good night.
The library. Bye-bye.
Good night.